Hi, I'm Mike Thornborough, and that was my wife Charlene. I apologize for having to read this, but my memory isn't quite what it used to be, so please bear with me. For over a month, off and on, we have been picketing at California State Capitol in an attempt to get the attention of the governor and the state's legislature, thinking that at least one of them would show some interest in our message. We all know how well that approach goes, so I decided to make this video in an attempt to get my message to the people. In this video, I will express my opinion as to why California's public school system is and has been in dire straits. I'm a former Assistant Director of Maintenance and Facilities for Western Placer Unified School District located in Lincoln, California. And as a classified manager in this K-12 school district for almost 12 years, I observed many questionable and illegal activities that have taken place which, if typical in all our school districts, explains why our schools are such a mess. For you college students watching this video, you may think that the issues I'm about to explain don't really concern you, but they do. You may have seen Charlene and I at your rally a few weeks ago, and many of you came up to get information about our cause. California's public school funding is actually one big pie, and if the K-12 schools are consuming most of the pie, then there isn't much pie left for you. And since it is highly unlikely that K-12 students will ever have to replenish the pie in the form of tuition, then guess who is going to be responsible for making up for pie deficit? Yep, that would be you. So you might want to pay close attention to what I'm telling you. The actual causes for our public school failures are corruption, greed, mismanagement, disorganization, wasteful spending, a total lack of accountability, and just plain stupidity. And all this is being perpetrated by the very same adults that consistently proclaim that they are concerned with our children's education. Let's start with corruption. As I said, my experience is with one small school district, so I can really only report my observations with this school district. However, California Watch, a group of investigative reporters, have recently reported many of the same concerns taking place at several other California schools. California Education Code Section 44111 clearly states that it is the legislature's intent for school employees to report improper governmental activities taking place in our schools. This intent may look good on paper, but it is obvious it's just another law that the state's legislature never had any actual intent of backing. I, along with several others, have been reporting improper governmental activities at this particular school district for many years, and I personally have literally sent out hundreds of letters to many state and federal agencies and individuals, and have yet to find anyone who is willing to hold school district administrators and board members accountable for their actions by simply enforcing existing laws. For example, Western Placer administrators and board members have been handing over millions of dollars to architects and contractors for work they knew wasn't actually performed. Not only do I consider this action embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds, but since it involves over $400, it is also considered a felony. Yet not one state agency will prosecute these individuals. And even though Section 12651 of the state's False Claims Act clearly states that these individuals can be held personally liable for 3 times the losses sustained by the school district, no one will go after collecting these funds. In fact, the administration and the board have gone to great extent and expense to hide their personal liabilities. These individuals are so desperate that they even spent another $1 million to cover up their illegal activities. One administrator has even gone on the record and admitted to her illegal actions, yet no one cares. It could be said that there is no way we could get back these millions of dollars from these administrators, but I've been told that often it is the case where a school district will take out insurance policies to protect the personal liabilities of administrators and board members. So these people may not have the money, but the insurance company certainly does. Why does the state refuse to enforce their own laws and prosecute these administrators to recover the millions of dollars these administrators owe the school district? I have read that on numerous occasions over many years, the state has seized control of a school district that was being financially mismanaged. And on these occasions, the state used public funds to bail out these school districts. In fact, over the past many years, the state has spent well over $200 million on these bailouts. And not one single school district administrator has ever been held accountable. I have reported the actions of these particular administrators on more than one occasion to the state's Attorney General. The last time I made such a report, I was told that I had to hire an attorney to pursue charges against these administrators. Apparently, if a citizen wants to report a violation of state laws by a state agency to the state attorney general, the citizen has to hire an attorney. Who knew? Here's a shocker. Did you know that there are actually attorneys out there that have no problem taking your children's education money in exchange for protecting school administrators and board members' personal interests instead of protecting the district's interest, as is their duty? In fact, Western Placer has so far found 6 such attorneys that I know of. Well, yeah, I guess maybe that's not much of a shocker. Let's move on to other reasons for the failure of our school system. Did you know that over 80% of public school funding goes to employees? In fact, the California Budget Project reports this figure is actually right at 83%. But this figure must represent an average because a 2007-2008 Placer County Grand Jury report stated that Western Placer is actually 90%, which means that only 10% of total funding is left for such things as maintenance and repair of facilities, bus transportation, food service, utilities, custodial supplies, textbooks, technology upgrades, sports, the arts, and classroom supplies. However, Western Placer must have realized that there was still 10% left on the table because in 2009 they gave all employees another raise, even though they were operating in a multi-million-dollar deficit at the time. And the costs of these raises increased their deficit by another $1 million per year. In fact, this year, Western Placer is trying to offset a $5.75 million deficit. Last year, the deficit was $4-something million, and the year before was $3-something million. Do you see a pattern? And if Western Placer are not given the raises in 2009, and if they had not spent about $1 million trying to cover administrator butts, then their deficit for this upcoming year would be about $5 million less. What is even more shocking is that Western Placer blatantly admitted that these raises would increase deficit spending, but that was okay since they had a ton of cash in reserves. Where was Placer County's superintendent during all this? It is the County Office of Education's responsibility to ensure that the school districts under their charge maintain fiscal solvency, yet apparently Placer County's superintendent of schools had no problem with this action. You can read for yourself Western Placer's disclosures in their June 22, 2009 board meeting packet, which can be found on the district's website. But you better hurry, because the last time I referenced a board agenda and packet off the district's website that was evidence of wrongdoing by an administrator, the entire packet and the board agenda disappeared off the website. Wonder why? Since education is considered a type of service industry, you would expect for labor costs to be a major operating expense, but 83 to 90%? There are a couple of practices that contribute to this high cost. First of all, it is common practice among school districts to conduct employee salary and benefit comparison studies between districts. The districts that rank low in these studies use their position as justification for salary and benefit increases. And once the lower ranking districts move up in ranking, then other districts are now at the lower end of the scale. This leapfrog raise justification results in constant increases to labor costs, and there are other factors that contribute to unnecessary costs as well. For example, at Western Placer, negotiations with the local chapter of the teachers union are held during school hours. Typically, the teachers' negotiating team consists of several teachers, usually the most senior ones. And during these all-day negotiations, which can go off and on for months, the district has to pay for substitute teachers to fill in for the negotiating teachers. More costs resulting in local labor negotiations include additional part-time staff for such things as street crossing guards and yard duty personnel, since teachers no longer rotate these responsibilities. In addition, teachers' aides are also hired. In 2009, before they handed out the raises, Western Placer conducted yet another comparison study which showed that the 2 major employee groups were already ranked at the top of the comparison with 7 other school districts, but they got raises anyway. In my opinion, this was done solely because the superintendent wanted a raise, but he knew that he would run into a lot of opposition unless he gave everyone else a raise. So the superintendent realized a 6.5% raise. And by the way, all this was going on during California's future financial uncertainty, and while most other school districts in the state were cutting programs and staff. Huge cost savings could be realized if both major employee unions, as well as all the other employees, including administrators, would negotiate at a state level instead of a local level. Why aren't there statewide standardized salaries and benefits for all school employees, including college employees? Every school's job description could be at the same salary statewide, and employee benefits could also be the same, with cost of living adjustments made for particular high-priced areas such as San Francisco. I believe millions of dollars would be saved by not having all the additional expense of local negotiations, as well as the huge difference in salaries between individual districts and colleges for the same jobs. Speaking of school districts, why are there over 1,000 individual school districts throughout the state? California has 58 counties and approximately 480 incorporated cities and towns within the state. Each county has a county office of education that oversees the individual school districts within the county. And each county office has a superintendent, assistant superintendents or directors, a personnel department, and a county department, a maintenance department, a transportation department, a technology department, as well as facilities to house all these people. Then under them you have many individual school districts, each with a board of trustees, a superintendent, assistant superintendents, personnel, accounting, maintenance, transportation, food service, and technology departments, as well as facilities to house all of them. We have unified school districts, union school districts, charter school districts, joint school districts, and high school districts, to name a few. What I want to know is if Sacramento City School District can administer approximately 80 kindergarten through high school facilities, and San Juan School District can administer about 90 schools, and LA Unified can administer over 600 schools, why does the city of Auburn, comprised of only 12,500 people over an area of only 7.5 square miles, have 3 school districts? One district is for K-8 students, while their high school is part of a different high school district that is comprised of several high schools for several different communities. The third district is a single school charter school district. Why aren't the high schools attached to each local community's K-8 district like so many other communities? This one example alone would eliminate at least one entire high school district and its operating costs. Another example is in the city of Placerville. Literally right next to Placerville Union School District, there is Camino Union School District with one single K-8 school. And within just a few miles of Camino is Gold Oak Union School District, comprised of one elementary school, one middle school, and one charter school. About 12 miles from there, you have Pioneer Union School District, which has 2 elementary schools, one middle school, and one charter school. True, these small districts don't have the elaborate department, staff, and facilities in most school districts, but why can't Camino, Pioneer, and Gold Oak be incorporated into Placerville Union? And finally, there is the stupidity factor. Why does California tax its own schools? Isn't this a form of kickbacks? When I discovered that California charged its own state-funded schools state sales tax on all of their purchases, I did a little research and discovered that California is one of only 3 states in the entire country that charge their public schools state sales tax. The other 2 is Arizona and Washington. After I discovered that Western Placer was losing about $500,000 every year to sales tax, and at the time Western Placer was a very small school district, I got a bill authored before the state Senate and another one authored before the state Assembly to exempt our K-12 schools from having to pay this tax. At one time I received a letter from a much larger school district in Southern California informing me that they were losing $6 million a year to state sales tax. At the time of these bills, the state actually had a huge surplus of cash. But shortly after I testified before the Senate committee, the energy crisis hit, and every bill before the Senate and Assembly that would either create a cost to the state or reduce revenue to the state was killed instantly. And as you know, the state has been in a financial down spiral ever since. So our schools continue to be taxed. Over the past few years, education has suffered significant cuts, resulting in hundreds of employees being laid off and many programs and services for the students to be cut. Governor Brown seems to think that the solution is to implement higher taxes. And I observed a few weeks ago that the majority of college students are all for more taxes. Let me offer my opinion as to how this whole scenario will pan out if it is approved by the voters. First of all, college tuition has been on the rise for several years. In fact, even several years ago, tuition was already high. If more money is made available to our public schools and the schools get back to the funding level that they were at a few years ago, all the laid-off employees will return, as will most of the programs and services that have been cut. So about 85 to 90% of this new funding will go right back to employee costs. Either that or school districts such as Western Placer may just decide that another round of raises are in order. If nothing has been done to stop corruption, mismanagement, wasteful spending, etc. in the K-12 schools, then very little, if any, of this additional funding will trickle down to affect college tuition. In other words, you college students, no pie for you. Throwing more money at a broken system never works. All that does is increase the magnitude of brokenness, if that's a word. What I have learned is that our elected officials have refused for all these years to effect actual reform in our school system. So I guess it is up to the people to pressure these elected officials to actually perform their responsibilities for which they were elected, and I hope that this video will spark some enthusiasm. That's all I got for now. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Goodbye.